All right, what is going on? What's happening? How's everyone today? My name is Chuck, and welcome back to a brand new video. Today, fellas, we're gonna be jumping into my top 5 guns y'all should be using here on Rebirth Island. Now, normally I don't do like Rebirth Island exclusive videos, but this is gonna be dedicated towards guns you should be using here on Rebirth. And of course, in every other video, everything still works for Rebirth like usual, but I just want to make a specific Rebirth video so you guys can enjoy some pretty awesome Rebirth loadouts. Before any further, I want to give a shout out to the Noti gang. If y'all want to be featured in a future video, make sure y'all drop a like on this video, subscribe, all notifications turned on, comment down below Noti gang, and of course watch the video all the way to the end. Okay, so first gun I'm going to get in here to today is going to be the C58, the Cold War C58. This thing is absolutely incredible. I think y'all are really going to like this one. I really personally enjoy using it. It does have a tad bit of recoil, but as soon as you can manage that recoil, I think it is a really solid AR. That's just kind of like the one caveat to it, is that it's got a little bit. So as long as you can, take that on and be able to, bring it down, you're going to be able to hit a lot of shots, and it's going to be a very, very lethal weapon. So let's get into a setup here for it. First thing on this thing is going to be the agency suppressor here in that muzzle category. Of course, this is going to be the assault rifle, designated suppressor. We're not going to go for the regular one. Don't ever want to go for that one here. On generally speaking, on pretty much like 99% of the guns here for Cold War stuff, always want to go with the agency, the group, whatever it may be. After that, in the barrel section, we're going to go for the 18.5 task force. This is a must use on this weapon. I would not ever suggest to use anything else here, specifically after they did that nerf to the recoil. Beforehand, you maybe get away with running something like the Ranger barrel, but I personally do not believe you can get away with running that anymore, and you have to run the task force at all points in time, just because that's just kind of where it's at right now. That's out in the underbarrel section. We're going to go for the field agent grip here, horizontal and vertical recoil. I never ran anything else previous to the nerf and everything else like that. I still definitely do not run anything else afterwards, so I'd only suggest to run the field agent on this gun. After that, in the magazine section, we have the 45 round drum. Now, this is gonna be a little bit personal preference. You guys can run the 45 round or the snag 55 round. I would never suggest running like a fast mag or something like that, because this gun has got an incredibly fast reload speed, just kind of like anyways. And it just comes down to, if you want a little bit more mobility, 45 is going to be great. And if you can deal with a little less mobility, you want to have some more ammo, 55 is going to work out pretty nicely as well. And for our final attachment here on this gun, we're going to go for the axle arms 3 times. This actually works out very, very nicely on this gun. This is going to be my full build here for the C58. I definitely would recommend y'all try this one out. Love the C58. It's definitely one of my top tier guns I go to right now on Rebirth. Okay, next up on this here, I got to give y'all a setup here for the new and improved OTS9. For those of you that didn't see my other video where I talked about the OTS, this is going to be a really solid setup. This thing's kind of making a bit of a resurgence, a bit of a return here, because people kind of messed around with some attachments, and I went and used it and dropped like 29 kills with it. Absolute banger gameplay. If you haven't seen that, go check it out on the channel. Y'all are going to be able to find it. It's one of my recent uploads. But let's get into a pretty good setup here for this gun, or the new meta setup for this gun. Okay, so first thing in your muzzle category, groove suppressor, sound suppression, vertical recoil, control, bullet velocity, and of course effective damage range. This is, like I said, the groove or the agency is going to be what you want to run on all the different Cold War guns. Always stay away from that sound suppressor. It's really not going to do you any benefit. The groove is just going to be better pretty much every single way. That's how we're skipping the barrel section, and we're going down here to the underbarrel. Normally speaking, we run a task force previously, but we're not going to be running a barrel at all. We're going to go straight for the bruiser grip here for movement speed and hip fire accuracy. I really like the bruiser grip on this thing, and this build here in particular works out very nicely. So the bruiser grip is just a perfect fit for this build. As that, in the laser section, we're going to go for the KGB target designator for effective damage range and hip fire accuracy. This works out very nicely as a laser. I never really used this previous to actually trying out this build in particular, but the KGB is a really, really solid one, and I would suggest y'all give this one a shot. It's a little bit kind of weird, to put it on the KGB, but it works out really, really well. So after that, though, in the magazine, the standard VDV 40 round fast mag, y'all know how it is. We've been running this pretty much since the beginning. There's no real reason you should ever run like the Spetsnaz 40 or something like that. Always run the fast mag no matter what. And then for our final attachment here, we have the no stock attachment, and this is going to increase our sprint to fire time. Overall, this is a real banger setup here for the OTS9. Was not expecting it to be as good as it was, but I'll tell you what, after dropping 29 kills with this thing, I mean, it is unbelievably good. Y'all should definitely try this out. Okay, next up here on my Rebirth top 5 is going to be the M4A1. Y'all know and love the M4A1 here on this channel. And of course, by the way, this has one of the new CDL camos on it. You actually have to go to Modern Warfare Multiplayer, make a weapon variant, save it and everything, and then be able to bring that into Warzone, because for whatever reason, you can't use any of those camos on the Modern Warfare stuff unless you go and do that. It's a whole process, I know. But anyways, the Modern Warfare M4A1 is incredibly good. and it's a really solid AR that I want you guys to be using here on Rebirth. So let's actually get into this here. First thing on this, again, the muzzle category is gonna be the monolithic suppressor. Sound suppression, damage range, y'all already know how it is. The mono is gonna be the best suppressor for any of the mono warfare weapons. I don't want to have to explain this too many times here, within this video, but the mono suppressor is indeed going to be the best. I would just never recommend you running the lightweight, the tactical, whatever it may be. Always run the mono. Add that in the stock, in the barrel section, we have the stock M16 Grenadier barrel. Damage range, bullet velocity, and recoil control. Yes, I want to answer your question real quick that you're thinking, which is going to be the Corvus Custom Marksman versus the stock M16 Grenadier. Pretty much the M16 is going to do everything the Corvus Custom Marksman does, but better and more of it. So that's what I'm saying, like more damage range, more bullet velocity, more recoil control. I would just say that to run the stock M16 barrel, call it a day. Don't really mess around too much with the Corvus Custom unless you're feeling a little bit ballsy, a little bit crazy, and you feel like you can get away with it. But for me, I always run the stock M16 barrel, and it really just never fails me. After that, in the underbarrel section, you got the command of foregrip, recoil, stabilization, aiming stability, and got to think too much about it. You pretty much do anything else other than this, you're going to either, have like too slow of an ADS, and that's not good. I mean, you just don't really want to do that. It's just not the way to go, specifically for this gun, how we're building it. Definitely do not want to slow your gun down any more than we already have. After that, in the magazine section, I got the 60-round magazine here because I'm a 60-round magazine kind of guy. You'll know how it is. I just love running the 60-round mag, though. I have been switching it out for a 50 every now and again. Little personal preference on this one. Just make sure y'all stay away from these bottom two magazines here, which are a bunch of shenanigans. Not good in any capacity. So only go for the 60 or the 50. And apart from that, stay away from this shenanigans. For our final thing here on this gun, we're going to run the Corp Combat Hollow Sight, as this works out very nicely. It's a great medium range optic, and I really like running this specifically for Rebirth, just because like I'm not going to get into some super long range engagements. And the M4's got a great TTK, and with having the Corp Combat Hollow Sight on here, it just makes this gun very, very usable in a variety of different situations, whether close, medium, or even sometimes a tad bit longer range than just outside that medium. But overall, this is gonna be my setup here for the M4A1. Definitely give this one a shot. By the way, also the camos look really nice on these things, and I wish they'd make it more Warzone accessible instead of having to go into like Modern Warfare multiplayer to be able to do it. Okay, next up here for this top 5, I got to give you all a build here for the Automaton. This thing has been seriously buffed here in more recent time, and I definitely say that it is a top tier AR to use. In specific here on Rebirth, I really personally like using the Automaton. I wasn't that big of a fan of it here very early on, but it steadily has gotten better and better and better, and I got a pretty great build here for you that's going to make this thing a laser beam. You're going to be able to down people very quickly, so let's hop into this thing. First thing on this muzzle category, MX silencer, y'all know how it is. Sound suppression, vertical recoil control, and horizontal recoil control. Overall, great stuff. This was definitely not the description of it originally, so that's the reason we switched over to the MX here, because this got a buff here more or less, or changed. One of the more recent updates to the MX is the way to go. After that, in the barrel section, we've got the ZAC 600mm BFA barrel. This is going to make it a lot more controllable. I would definitely say y'all should run this over something like the Anastasia sniper barrel, though this is going to give you bullet velocity and range and accuracy. This is definitely going to be the way to go. It's going to make this gun a lot more controllable, which is definitely what you need out of this weapon. At that, in the underbarrel section, we've got the M1941 hand stop, recoil control, and accuracy. Gotta love this thing. This is definitely my go-to attachment here in the underbarrel section. I do not use anything else or switch it out for anything else because this is indeed the best. After that, in the magazine section, we got the 6.5mm Sakura 75 round drum. This is going to be the basic ammunition type that comes with the gun, but it's just going to increase your magazine ammo capacity. I don't really recommend using something like, the 5.630 or the 8mm Clouser 50 round. I don't really find it to be as beneficial right now, specifically because this is going to slow down your fire rate, and of course your overall recoil is going to make it worse, and I definitely don't think that the Automaton needs any of that. In your ammunition type, you're going to run lengthened here, and this is going to help increase your bullet velocity. This is going to make your shots hit faster overall over distance, so that is definitely a huge thing, and I'd recommend doing this. Don't ever run something like Incendiary, pretty much any of the Vanguard weapons ever, just because it actually decreases your total damage by about 10%, 12% overall. Not a good thing to do. I mean, it looks cool, I guess, when you get the burn effect and everything, but it's not viable anymore. So run the lengthened. You should just be running a lengthened or hollow point, whatever it may be. All hollow point for your SMGs and lengthened for all of your ARs. After that, in the rear grip section, we got the stippled grip here on for that recoil control and initial firing recoil. This gun loves to move around, so we're definitely going to try to control that as much as possible. So that's why we got that on there. After that, in the optics section, we got the G16 2.5 times magnification. That what I also have seen people do, as even though this works out very nicely, I also have seen people run something like, the 3 to 6 times down here, the SVT 40. This is going to work out pretty nicely as well. It's going to be very similar to like an Axel Arms or a VLK from the other, you know, Cold War Modern Warfare weapons. So it's kind of a little bit up to you, personal preference, but for me, I like running the G16, and that works out very, very well. In our stock section, we got the Anastasia padded here. This is going to be our accuracy and recoil during sustained fire and flinch resistance, which is pretty solid because this gun's not going to hit like super unbelievably hard. It's not like a C58, but it's just got a really high fire rate, so the more shots we can hit, obviously the faster we're going to be able to down people. And down here for our perks, these are going to be pretty beneficial as well. A tight grip, you need to run tight grip on this thing for accuracy and recoil during sustained fire. We really gotta, you know, make this thing a lot more of a laser beam, so we have to use all these different accuracy attachments, and tight grip is gonna be no different. This makes a very big difference in your like overall build and how well it actually performs, so I'd recommend this. And then obviously fully loaded, just because, I mean, well, there ain't nothing else in here. So that's gonna be that. This is gonna be my full build here for the Automaton. Absolutely love this thing. This is becoming like one of my more favorite ARs to use right now. It's growing on me quite a bit because it's been getting buffed, and obviously, you know, when stuff gets buffed, stuff gets better. I like to use it, so that's gonna be my build here for this gun. Now to finish out my Rebirth top 5, I got to give you guys a build for the well gun, which is undoubtedly probably the best SMG in Warzone to use at the moment, and just not even just Rebirth, but in Warzone total. But you guys should definitely be on the lookout to be using the well gun. So let's give you guys a setup for this thing. First thing, we're gonna use the recoil booster here because this is gonna increase our fire and also decrease our TTK, which, I mean, decreases in like you're gonna take people out faster. That's kind of what I'm saying. Sorry, like increasing TTK versus decreasing, it sounds a little bit weird. I mean, almost either or, but basically, I'm going to say you're going to take people out faster by having recoil booster on. After that, in the barrel section, you got the 320mm SA shrouded barrel. This is going to make a huge difference in your overall recoil and how much the gun actually bounces. I notice a massive difference when I use this versus no barrel at all or anything else like that, so I'd really recommend y'all should be using this thing. After that, we're going to go for the M1941 hand stop. This is really going to like narrow down how much recoil you have, and I would definitely say this is the way to go. After that, we have the 7.62 Gorenko 40-round magazine. It always seems a little bit counterproductive to use this magazine just because like you get decrease in damage, bullet penetration, bullet velocity, and range, but overall it's still going to be better just because of the perks and stuff you get out of actually using this magazine, and you're also going to have less recoil, which means you're going to hit more shots. Overall, it's really great. After that, on the ammunition side of things, we got hollow point here to increase our limb damage. Like I said earlier, you can't use incendiary anymore just because incendiary does not work out nearly as well as it should. It does decrease your overall damage way too much, which is never a good thing, so hollow point's the way to go. After that, in the rear grip section, we got fabric grip on here. This is going to increase our overall mobility. We love being able to ADS here a little bit better. So I actually have used something, I believe it was the pine tar grip, which actually works out pretty nicely as well. That's what I was using on one of my previous builds. So you guys can switch back and forth between the pine tar and the fabric grip on this gun. After that, in the optics section, we're going for the slate reflector here because that 1.35 times magnification is going to be super solid, and it's going to give you a very clear picture of what you're aiming at. I have seen people try to use the iron sights on this thing. I don't recommend it because they're not nearly that great. I'd always go for the slate reflector, even though unlike some of the other guns, I'd much rather go for the iron sights and get an ADS speed bonus. But on this gun, slate reflector, or even something like, where is it, the Night Arm Model 47 is 110% going to be the way to go. Now in the stock section, we're going to go run with the SA43 folding. I've been going back and forth between using the folding or the Gawain skeletal stock, and to be honest with you guys, I just prefer the folding stock on this thing. I just think it's overall better, and I've had better success with it, so I would just recommend running the folding. And then down in here to the perk section, we got acrobatic for our movement speed and sprinting move speed. This is going to be a lot better to run with this. I mean, I've seen people try to use like fleet or something like that, but I just prefer to run acrobatic. I think this works out very nicely. And then for perk 2, we have quick, which is our sprint speed. And overall, this is going to be my build here for this gun. Absolutely love this thing. This is my last gun here, my top 5. Y'all enjoyed this one. Make sure y'all give it a like, subscribe if you're brand new, and just remember, don't be Randy. And I'm out. Peace.